Go ahead,
Hi,
Andrea.
it's Andrea Strang here along with Michele Byrne, but I will formally introduce her in a little bit. I want to just welcome everyone. This is our way to bring our Gallery222 family together during this hard time, and then hopefully invite others in who have never looked or attended a gallery talk. So this is our attempt of doing a virtual gallery talk. So what that is usually we have a artist showing, and then it's more educational purposes. A lot of the audience is filled with artists, and it gives the showing artist an opportunity to either do a demo or talk about her process or talk about thoughts behind her paintings. So that's what we do once a month at Gallery222, along with the artist reception. So that's why it always seems like there's a lot going on, because twice a month we're getting people in, which is great. And I love my regulars. I love it. So I'm hoping people are tuning in. I know it could be a bad day, but we'll be filming later. But the ones who are available to be here with us, we're going to take questions from you. So don't be shy. Start texting away or commenting away on Facebook, and we'll hopefully get to all your questions. So what else do we want to throw at you right now? Well, first, let's formally introduce Michele. She is this is an established artist. She got her BFA at Kutztown. She studied at PAFA, which is the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. She worked 20 years in graphic design. And then 2006, she really kind of made this is her life. And I told her, please send me, and I remember looking at this on her website. I said, send me all your awards and exhibits. There's 3 pages. So when people ask me what I look for in an artist to show at Gallery222, 3 pages of accomplishments would work. So welcome, Michele.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
All right, great. Like I said, we could be having a lot of novice people because it's Facebook. Hopefully people are just kind of perusing and like, oh, this looks really interesting. Plein air, I know it's French for painting outside, but can you elaborate what plein air painting is?
Yeah, that's simply what it is. It's the French term plein is plain. So it's painting in the plein air, which is, basically just standing out on location, or, it could be standing anywhere, even if you're inside. There's always a little feedback about what's technically plein air, but as long as you're painting something from life, then it's plein air. Yeah.
Right. And then it seems, just because I know, but other people may not know, there are competitions. So, and it's really, I was going to say countrywide, but it's also over in Europe. Like how far have you gone for a competition?
Oh, let's see. Years ago, I went to Laguna Beach and San Luis Obispo and Florida, Jupiter, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, New Jersey. I'm trying to think. I've painted many other places like Cuba and Tuscany, but for competitions, there's one in in Ireland. I have not done that one, but they are literally all over the place, yes.
Oh my God, how exciting. And what made you make that jump? Because I would imagine you would start in just taking art class, like you have your studies in a classroom, and then how did you get exposed for plein air painting?
Well, I was actually plein air painting, way before I even knew what it was called, because I used to do watercolors with a local group around here, and we would go out and paint, but I didn't know what it was called. And then I was working with a marketing person in 2006, and she said, she was in Maryland, and she said, Michele, there's a Paint Snow Hill in Maryland here. You should come do it. So I came, and it was like, oh, this is fun, you know. And then I found out there was one in Annapolis. So the first time I applied and I got in, and I met this guy that was painting. He was painting on the street, and I said, "Oh, are there any cafes around here?" Because that was what I was painting at the time. And he told me where to go, and I went up to, I think it was something Brown's at the top of the hill in Annapolis, and I painted that scene, and I ended up winning second prize. So I was like, "Wow, I'm going to do more of these," you know. So I signed up for tons of them that summer, and it was just really exciting, you know. And I was just, because I got to travel places that were places that people would want to go, like Sedona was another one I went to. And so it became really exciting and fun to meet people and travel. And you would get to stay at host families, which were usually like really nice places to stay and beautiful places in the country. So it was really, really exciting for me. Yes.
That's wild. So one of the awards, I should say, or accomplishments was you were asked to be, or you were chosen to be on the cover of the Plein Air magazine. How did that happen? Was that like a phone call? Did you apply? Was there a competition that you had to apply to be on the cover? How did that all happen?
No, they do have competitions for the cover, but for this particular cover, which was just this past January, they had asked me to do an article on my plein air cityscapes. So I went to New York and I did a couple small cityscapes, and they wrote an article with step-by-step photographs of my process while I was up in the city painting. And then it wasn't until like a month before the issue came out that they sent out a promo, and it said, you know, advertise in this issue, and my painting was on the cover. And I was like, oh my God, that's my painting. Like, I didn't even know, they didn't even tell me. I mean, I knew I was going to be in an article, but I didn't know I was going to be on the cover. So it was very exciting. Yes.
Oh, that is. So you mentioned like your process a little bit. So you do the palette knife, right? Is that?
Yes.
Explain
Yes.
all that.
Well, when I first started doing plein air competition, well, first of all, my paintings were very tight and realistic in the beginning, and I was trying to loosen up. So I started plein air painting, which naturally makes you loosen up because you don't have a lot of time. And then even those were starting to get a little tight. And I started using a knife just for like certain buildings and flat surfaces. And then actually how it happened was I was in Paris painting and out on the street in 2012, I guess. And I had no paper towels. And at that time we didn't have cell phone service, so I couldn't call my friends. So I started just using my knife and wiping it on my apron. And when I got back home, I was like, wow, that's my favorite painting. You know, I really, really like the palette knife, the look of it and the looseness of it. So that's pretty much when I started using more of the palette knife.
Oh, wow. So, but you start out with the brush. Do you put?
I do.
Okay,
Yes, I
so
usually I draw it in with the brush and figure out all the values. And then after I have the values all figured out and the colors, I even put the colors down with the big brush. And then I start attacking it with the palette knife. Yes.
That's so cool. I love that. So now you mentioned a little bit of the New York. You had our exhibit at Gallery222 now is a lot of New York scenes, which I love. So what brought you there to paint? Was that a competition?
No, they don't have any in New York that I'm aware of, but I went to college at Kutztown, and they had a bus there that would take you up, you know, every hour of the day. There used to be a bus that would take you to the city. So I started going up because I won a college competition, a graphic design competition, and I got to live there for 8 weeks and do a worked for an ad agency. So I kind of fell in love with the excitement and the energy of the city. And I didn't take the job that they offered me for personal reasons or whatever, but I just kind of fell in love with the city. So I would take the bus up, a lot and just walk around and photograph. For years I would do that. And I did, at that time, I wasn't doing plein air paintings, but I would go up there and just get to know the city and take tons of photographs. And I think because I grew up in the country, I was always enamored by the big city and the action and the cultural life. And I think that's what had inspired me from the beginning.
Well, that I feel inspired too. Just going and visiting in New York, there's a certain energy that is unique to that place. And again, my heart breaks for all what they're dealing with. But again, this is our little escape to talk art. So now flags are very important to you. I remember when I first was thinking of showing you, I get inundated with artists. The one thing that jumped out about your work was the flags. Do you have a backstory to that?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I never painted the flag. Like I never really thought about it. I never noticed the flag. I mean, it just wasn't in my thought process. But I was in the midst of working on this book called The Art of Conversation Manhattan in the early 2000s. So I was going up, taking a bus up and taking thousands of photographs. I'd walk like from Port Authority to Battery Park and back, and I was taking tons of photographs. And then September 11th happened in 2001. And I didn't go up for like a month or two. And I went back up on the bus and I was walking through the city and the people were just like amazingly friendly. The first thing that stuck out in my mind, I was looking at my little map because I was lost, of course, looking for an art store. And this young man came up to me and he goes, "Excuse me, ma'am, can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for this certain art store, And he said, "Well, follow me." And he walked me like 3 blocks to this art store. And everyone was just so nice. And the flags were flying. And it was just like very emotional for me because September 11th had just happened. And it seemed like there were 1,000 flags in the city, like they were everywhere. And people were being extremely friendly. And it just kind of struck a chord with me. And I started becoming obsessed with painting the flags. So that's how that all began. And yeah, I mean, I would paint them in the sun, in the rain, like every kind of which way. And it even got to the point where driving down the street, I would go, "Oh, there's a flag," It was just like so exciting for me. And that's what started it all. Because like I said, I did not paint a flag that I recall ever before that. So it was just how the people were reacting after that and the flags that were furling everywhere. And it just really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's going to symbolize a lot of the same thing when all this quiets down. So it's really timely. That's really let's see what I'm getting a little couple questions. Looking good. Well, that's nice. Liz Bradley thanked us. That's fantastic. Oh, Joanne is one of my good friends, so she's like, love this. And Trudy, probably somebody loves your work. So keep any questions. I'm sure maybe the artists are all working on their easels during this time right now. But if you have any questions, pull yourself away. And we have Michele Byrne here live, which is so exciting. Now, getting back to the flags, didn't it transition with women and entering the workforce? I remember you had mentioned a while back to me about that.
Oh, well, I had done a series of, it was called The Fabric of America, and it was women from all different cultural backgrounds. And I did a whole series and a whole show at Malvern University, and it was showing how that we're all united and we all should stand together no matter what our backgrounds are and where we're from. So I painted people from women that I met from like Budapest and Jerusalem and Africa and Slovakia, and all different
Mm.
places. I think there were 16 altogether, and had a big show about how we're all, joined together through one human fabric. And it was really very inspiring. And I'm still working on that series. So that's ongoing. Yes.
Yes, that's interesting. That's so cool. Now, the one, was it crossings that you were having trouble? Is that the piece that you worked a few years on? Because like you said, you're a plein air, everything's usually quick. So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Well, some paintings just, I don't know, it was a big one, 40 by 40, this one right here, yeah. And I was working on it, and then I would set it aside, and then I was working on it, and then I was setting aside. And I had kind of stopped painting flags for a little while. I just felt like our country was so divided. I just wasn't really into it. And this painting didn't have flags in it. But so then after a couple of years, I thought, oh, you know what? I think it needs some flags. So I just put them on there. So this painting has been morphed through a lot of changes. And once I put the flags on it, I was like, okay, now it's finished. I had it for 3 years here in my studio. So I'm calling it finished now.
Right. It's a 3-year plein air painting.
Exactly.
So here we do have a question. Who were you influenced by? This Marianne Riker has a clue on maybe who it is. Was there anybody who really influenced you with the flags or?
Oh, well, I mean, Child Hassam, of course, is an American impressionist that painted thousands of flags. Yes. And actually, when I first started painting the flags, I wasn't even aware of him. Someone mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh, wow. So another friend, Tony, gave me one of Child Hassam's books, and they're way different than mine, but he has thousands of them. Yeah. And now I do refer to him, and yeah, great work.
That's great. Way to go, Marianne. I love it. I love it. I have another question from Finn Timmons. What's your favorite subject to paint?
Oh, well, what I really like to paint is rainy street scenes, and that sounds crazy, but I think it's because the reflections, I can get really abstract, and I'm trying to get my work a little bit more abstracted. So with the rainy street scenes, I mean, I've done some really big ones where, the reflections were most of the painting. And I think that's probably one of my favorite things because I can be abstracted. And of course, I like to paint cafes and people. I love to paint people. It just to me, it gives life to the paintings. And I like the action of having people and figures in my paintings. So I guess anything with figures. And, I really just like to paint. Even when I went to Jackson Hole to paint, that was another competition I forgot to mention. It was just mountains. So I painted the mountains, and it was really fun, So I just really like to paint, but it is the human figure that I get most excited about, and reflections.
Do you ever get like totally afraid to paint something? Like, do you ever set up and like, I can't tackle that? Maybe that's a day-to-day thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm sure I have. I'm just drawing a blank right now what that is.
Yeah.
Maybe like a car. I've painted a couple cars plein air, and they're difficult for me. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love your paintings with the figures because one, it gives such, like you said, such life and such energy to the painting. And explain how, and I know we have one of the films that we showed during your month here that we've pre-recorded, but explain on. I thought that was so cool how you capture people in motion, but it's plein air. I mean, people are literally walking by, and explain all that.
Well, it's something that I started doing, and I found that if I take a photograph and paint people walking, they just look kind of stiff. So if I'm out there painting and they're walking by, I think I've learned to have like a photographic memory. So if people are walking at me, I'll just measure like how high their head is to a doorway and where their feet are. And I'll get a glimpse of how big the person is in relation to what they're near. And then I'll just start putting in shadowy figures. And as people walk by, like, my paintings are never really a snapshot in time, because it's like maybe this person with pink walked by, and then maybe somebody else walked by, and then maybe this man will turn into a woman. Like, depending on what my knife or my brush does, I kind of let that dictate how the painting works. And for me, it keeps it way more fluid than trying to photograph a person and put them in the painting. So this way, they might, sometimes they look really funky and odd, but as long as you have the body language correct, it'll read as people, no matter how out of whack certain things might be. So I find it challenging and exciting. And, I might put a person in and then scrape them out because I didn't like where they were. So it's like this constant changing thing until I'm finished.
Oh, that's great. I was just enjoying the film, because sometimes we can see what you're watching. And I loved seeing Church or King Street buzzing. So hope we get back to that.
Yes. I hope so.
So I have another question. How do you select a site to paint? And then how do you decide on the design and composition?
Okay, well, like for instance, in New York City, I'll pick a spot, and that's really challenging up there because I have to pick a spot where I can be kind of a little bit hidden from the flow of the traffic. Like when I painted the Flatiron, I was standing under scaffolding next to a trash can, maybe, next to a wall, so that if a lot of people are walking, sometimes they're looking at their phones, they don't know, they'll trip right over you. So I have to find a spot that's a good spot with a good view. Like here, it was in the shade under the scaffolding in the middle of July, which was very, very hot. But since I knew I was going to be in the shade the whole time, it worked out just fine. And then what I do is draw a little value study, especially outside plein air, because there's this big giant world all around you and you have to figure out how to put it on that little canvas. So I'll do a little value study so I know where the placement's going to be. And then when I have that figured out, then I start drawing on the canvas. So it's, a lot of things, especially in the city, you have to like maybe do it in 2 hours, because after that time you'll have to go to the bathroom, and you can't just leave your stuff on the street. Because, I was there by myself painting. So there's a million things you got to think about. But it's kind of the excitement. That's what makes it exciting for me, which, might sound crazy to some people, but I like that.
Oh, that's good. That question was from Mike Strickland. Judy Jones, she is asking, have you ever considered doing YouTube tutorials?
Well, it's interesting she says that, because I have 3 instructional videos. So because of that, I'm not allowed to do really long ones, but I just designed a logo and it's called Studio Tips. And and I have a YouTube channel. There's not much on it right now. And I'm going to do little less than 5-minute studio tips on mixing color, how I hold the knife and different things. And my goal is to have one done by the next week. So yes. So in answer to that, yes, I will be.
So that's what I love about the art community. For those who do not, who aren't in the circle, everyone is so helpful. Like you're not only learning from others, but you're also teaching others. Like it's a huge sharing community. And no egos. At least I have not come across that, thank goodness. But everybody is so helpful. And even just having gallery talks, like you're so open to having and sharing some secrets and your experience. I think that can only help other artists. And that's why people don't realize our area is truly a hotbed of amazing talent. Because we have the PAFA, which is in Philadelphia, the Wyatt country, everybody, has teachers out there. You all learn at such a high level that's why the local artists here are bar none. And I know one of a gallerist decided to open up a gallery in the Florida area, and the talent was just not there. So I need to, shout that to the mountain, the town, that we're really living in an area where the art, the local art, is really, really good. All right, so here we have another question. Oh, just Kathy Glick, she's so cute. She took a tutorial with you. She loves your style. It was a joy to meet you, and you are accomplished yet humble. So, and I agree with that, Kathy. That's great.
Thank you.
So here's another question from Finn Timmons. How do you handle curious passerbyers? Do you like the interaction, or do you find it distracting?
I'm one of the odd ones that really likes it. And maybe it's because I live at home by myself, paint in the studio when I'm home. So to have people come talk to me, I think is really exciting. And in New York, people always say, well, isn't it horrible in New York City? Don't you get like rude people? Like, not at all. First thing, most of the people in the New York City are tourists that are walking by. Not all, but some. And they're just fascinated by the whole process, and they want to take pictures. Of course, everybody wants to be in it. And sometimes there's people that, want to show you their artwork when you're out there, trying to get something done really fast. But that, I've learned how to handle that too. So I find it really fun. And I was painting in New York one time at a French cafe, and I guess it was the manager. He came out with a table, a chair, a pizza, and a glass of wine for me. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. So I actually really do. And sometimes, not a lot, but sometimes I meet buyers that actually buy my paintings on the street. That happened in Paris one time. A woman walked by and she said, I was painting a street scene, and she said, if you put my house number on that house right there, I'm going to buy that. Just knock on my door when you're done, and I'll buy it. And she did. So that was, yeah, I could write a book about the stories. Yeah.
Yes. I have a girlfriend who was sitting at the Buttery at the time you were painting, and it was during the Malvern plein air.
Oh.
And she was so excited because as soon as it opened, she decided, came in to buy it, and it was already sold. She was so sad, but you got her colors down at the table. So she's like, this is me. So I thought that was just so cool.
That is funny.
All right, here we go. Let's see. Susan Klinger, please let us know where to see your studio tips when it goes live. So where will they know?
I guess if you join my newsletter, then I'll be sending out a newsletter when I start them. So then you can, it's actually, if you go to YouTube and search Michele Byrne, it should come up too. So not exactly sure of that. If you join my email newsletter, I'll let you know.
Okay, great. Marianne Riker, your works are beautiful and love the mix of brush and palette knife work. That's lovely to hear from you. Randy, we know our Randall Graham. This is a beautiful painting behind, oh, never mind. That's actually his, I bought from him 2 years ago. I wouldn't have read that, Randy. That's so funny. All right, great. So then, yeah, so you did mention, we should tell everyone, you have a group of the Art of Conversation Manhattan in our gallery. We did, if anyone missed my little preview, I did walk through, gosh, it was probably a week ago, and I actually held up, we have a whole stack on the table, and it's on our page, and you can actually see Michele's work through the gallery to give you a sense. But she has these books. So if you want, and I thought it was very cool to actually, you get it free if you do a painting. I should mention that. And I just thought it was so cool to have a Michele Byrne piece on your wall, and then also have her book, which are very professionally done. So who gave you that idea? How did all this come about, the book?
Oh, well, I guess it was, wow, it was a long time ago. In the late 90s, I met with a marketing woman, and she advised me to do a book. And I was like, what do you mean a book? No, I can't do a book. I don't know how to do a book. So I did one before the Manhattan one called The Art of Conversation. And it's a lot of women in conversation scenes. And then I started getting obsessed with painting New York City. So I did this book, and it was her sister was a writer, and she wrote the second book. She wrote the copy for the first one I wrote. And then yeah, so anyway, she twisted my arm, and it was before the time when you could just go online and publish a book. I actually had to get it printed, and it was printed at Brilliant Studios, which is right near Exton. So yeah, I'm very proud of both the books, and they're different styles though. The first book was very expressionist, and the Manhattan book was very tightly rendered paintings, but there was a few, I think maybe 5 or 6 flag paintings in that book, because that's when I started doing them, in the midst of that book.
Oh, wow. That's great. So that's at the gallery. Lastly is your series on Italy. And again, this is, it's just so timely. You did a huge body of work in New York City. You did a huge body of work in Italy. And let's just talk Italy for a second. That was my favorite family trip I took. I had my mother, I'm going to start to cry, had my mother and father. It was amazing. So why don't you just talk about your experience over in Italy, and how long ago was it?
Okay, well, I was just there in October, and a group of artists, Kirk McBride and his girlfriend Lynn Lockhart, they scheduled a trip to go over to Tuscany, and they said, you want to go along? And I was like, yes, like I had never been there before. I had been to Venice like years and years ago, but I'd never been to Italy or Tuscany. So we went over and we stayed in this like magical villa where he took care of us, drove us everywhere. In fact, I just emailed him yesterday to see how he was doing, and he said they're all fine. But we would get in this little van and drive to all these little towns. This one right here you had just shown was Montepulciano and Cortona. I loved Cortona and Orvieto, and yeah, it was just like the highlight of my year. I was worried about going, that I shouldn't have gone because I had a lot on my plate. And then when I got back, I was so happy I went. And I'm actually scheduled to teach there this August. And I was just in correspondence with him yesterday, and he said they're all fine. They canceled everything for May, June, and July. No, April, May, and June. And they were going to see about July and August. So I'm still hopeful that I get to go back, but it was just fabulous. It was just like going back in time. All the healthy food they eat and all the wine they drink, which is really good. I didn't get headaches from their wine.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved like everything about it. It was a great group of artists, and it was just so much fun. And I feel so sad about all that's going on in there. And then we went to Rome and Florence and Cinque Terre, and it was just a fabulous trip. Yeah, I mean, we stood there. This was a little village by a lake, and I can't remember the name of it, but beautiful, beautiful place with wonderful people. My heart goes out to them.
Yes. If you had to compare New Yorkers and the Italian people, are they the same? Were they as friendly as New Yorkers, or?
Yeah, they were everyone was very friendly, and it's just such an old world feeling. Like, especially like being in those little villages, you feel like you're going back in time. Like I remember the one time I was painting the one in the one plaza, and the whole time all I could hear was this mother going, Luigi, Luigi, and the kids were running around. It just I just felt like I was transported back in time. The people were extremely friendly, and yeah, it's a very special place, and I hope to go back many times.
Yes. Same. I would go in a heartbeat. And I love the painting. And I think we showed it earlier in the piazza with the people. And, you know, it just, it breaks my heart, but we will get there again. So, so yeah, I guess we are, I don't think we have any more questions. I hope it wasn't too tedious. I really enjoyed myself. I hope you did, Michele.
It was fun. No, it was longer actually. But,
so this was so fun. For my Gallery222 family, we are going to do our next table talk is next Wednesday in April 1st. Rachel Altschul, I will try to figure out how to say her last name by then. So that's next Wednesday. And then Matthew Doherty is the following Wednesday on April 8th. You can shop online. I mean, I hate to be like a used car salesman, but all these paintings are so amazing. You know, I was thinking just today, if someone is on the fence about a painting, you know, this whole stay at home, I need to always go and pick up mail because I need to pay my bills. But if I can switch out the window pieces. So if anybody has a question, or an interest in a painting, I can actually put it in those big bay windows. And then you can see it through that way. So it was just a thought in my head this morning. Actually, we do have another question before we go. Did you study figurative drawing, or did it just arise out of your plein air work?
Well, in college, you know, I think everybody that goes to art school has life drawing. So I did draw a lot of figures, but no, it just kind of, you know, I didn't study it beyond that. So it's just getting the body language and doing like thousands and thousands of figures, I guess is what it was. Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is all good. I hope you enjoy this little escape. Everyone stay home. And then hopefully soon we'll be back, and this exhibit is over. When is it over? April
11th. April 11th.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I blanked. April 11th. So who knows? Maybe you can see it in person, but if not, get creative. I am very flexible on how you want to see the art. Like I said, I can put it in the window. So just let me know.
Oh,
So
Andrew,
I think that's everything.
Oh, I have
sure,
one
sure.
suggestion. Okay.
Oh,
Because I have my house up for sale right now and nobody can come see it. So yesterday I gave somebody a FaceTime tour with my iPhone. I walked around and showed them the whole house. So you could do that with the artwork if anybody wants to see what it is. Yeah.
I would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat. And again, I'm picking up mail, so that's essential. I'm not breaking any rules. So yes, I would love to do that. So just let me know. But I guess that's it. So thank you again, Michele. I so appreciate your time, being patient. Do want to thank CS Graham Group. The girls, Caroline and Sarah, are champions. They got this all going. I just know where the on button is. So thank you for them for doing all this. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you and give you a hug in person down the road. So we'll see you. We're off.